Hello, my name is Leo and welcome to another reading of the Elder Scrolls. Today we're going to be reading Frostfall, Book 10, 2920, The Last Year of the First Era, by Cardivac Downwell. 10th of Frostfall, 2920, Varangius, Hierarch. The creature before them blinked, senseless. Its eyes glazed, mouth opening and closing as if relearning its function. A thin glob of saliva burbled down between its fangs and hung suspended. Tulada had never seen anything of its kind before. Reptilian and massive, perched on its hind legs like a man. Mystania applauded enthusiastic. "My child," she crowed, "you have come so far in so short a time. What were you thinking when you summoned this Daedrith?" Wait, who summoned it? Tulada? It took Tulada a moment to recall whether she was thinking anything at all. She was merely overwhelmed that she had reached out across the fabric of reality into the realm of oblivion and plucked forth this loathsome creature, conjuring it into the world by the power of her mind. "I was thinking of the color red," Tulada said, concentrating. "The simplicity and clarity of it. And then I desired and spoke the charm, and this is what I conjured up." "Desire is a powerful force for a young witch," said Ministera. "And this is and it is well matched in this instance. For this Daedrith is nothing if not a simple force of the spirits. Can you release your desire as easily?" Tulada closed her eyes and spoke the dismissal evocation. The monster faded away like a painting in sunlight, still blinking confusingly. Ministera embraced her dark elf pupil, laughing with delight. "I never would have believed in a month and a day you've been with the coven. You're already far more advanced than most of the women here." Just kidding. "There is powerful blood in you, Tulada. You touch spirits like you are touching a lover. You'll be leading this coven one day. I have seen it." Tulada smiled. It was good to be complimented. The Duke of Mournhold had praised her pretty face and her family, before she had dishonored them, praising her manners. Cassia had been nothing more than a companion. His compliments meant nothing. But with Ministera, she felt she was home. "You'll be leading the coven for many years yet, great sister," said Tulada. "I certainly intend to, but the spirits, while marvelous companions and faultless tellers of truth, are often hazy about when and hows. You can't blame them, really. When and how means so little to them. Ministera opened the door to the shed, allowing the brisk autumn breeze in to dispel the bitter and fetid smells of the Daedrith. "Now I need you to run an errand to Wayrest. It's only a week's ride there, and a week's ride back. Bring Dorathra and Sedaphana with you. As much as we try to be self-sufficient, there are herbs we can't grow here, and we seem to run through an enormous quantity of gems in no time at all. It's important that the people of the city learn to recognize you as one of the wise women of Skelfington Coven. You'll find the benefits of being notorious far outweigh the inconveniences." Tulada did as she was bade, and as she and her sisters climbed aboard their horses, Ministera brought her child, 5-month-old Bosrel, to kiss her mother goodbye. The witches were in love with the little Dunmer infant. Fathered by a wicked duke, birthed by wild allied elves in the forest heart of the Empire, Trelana knew her nursemaids would protect her child with their lives. After many kisses and a farewell wave, the three young witches rode off into the bright woods under a covering of red, yellow, and orange. 12 for Frostfall. 29:20. Dwenin, High Rock. For a Minas evening, yeah, that's right, you said that right. Minas evening, yeah. The least loved Porcupine Tavern, that's a name for a tavern, was wildly crowded. A roaring fire in the pit in the center of the room cast an almost sinister glow on all the regulars, and made the abundance of bodies look like a punishment tapestry, inspired by Arcturian heresies. Cassia, whatever. Cassia took his usual place with his cousin and ordered a flagon of ale. "Have you seen the Baron?" asked Perth. "Yes. He may have worked for me in the palace in Unis," said Cassia proudly. "But more than that I can't say. You understand, secrets of state and all that. Why are there so many damn people here tonight?" "A shipload of dark girls just came in the harbour. They've come from the war. I was just waiting until you got here to introduce you as another veteran." Cassia blushed, but regained his composure enough to ask, "What are they doing here? Has there been a truce?" "I don't know the full story," said Platus, "but apparently the Emperor and Vivek are in negotiations again. These fellas here have investments they were keen to check on, and they figured things in the bay were quiet enough. But the only way we can get the full story is to talk to the chaps." With that, Platus gripped his cousin's arm and pulled him to the other side of the bar so suddenly Cassia would have had to struggle violently to resist. The Dunmer travellers were spread out across 4 of the tables, laughing with the locals. They were largely amiable young men, well-dressed, befitting merchants, animated in gestures made more extravagant by liquor. "Excuse me," said Platus, intruding on the conversation. "My shy cousin Cassia was in the war as well, fighting for the living god Vivek." Wait, wasn't it the other way around? I don't remember. Wait, why is... I can't remember what happened. It's been so long since I read the last book. The only... Wait, who's talking? "The only Cassia I ever heard of," said one of the Dunmer drunkenly with a wide, friendly smile, shaking Cassia's free hand, "was a Cassia Whiteley, who Vivek says was the worst spy in history. We lost Aldmaric due to his bungling intelligence work. For your sake, friend, I hope the two of you were never confused." Fuck. Cassia smiled and listened as the lout told the story of his failure with bountiful exaggerations which caused the table to roar with laughter. Several eyes looked his way, but none of the locals sought to explain that the fool of the tale was standing at attention. Thank God for that. The eyes that stung the most were his cousin's. The young man who had believed that he had returned to Dunnan a great hero. At some point, certainly, the Baron would hear about that. His idiocy increasing manifold with each retelling. Excuse me. With every fibre of his soul, Cassia cursed the living god Vivek. Yes, indeed. 21st of Frostfall. 29:20. The Imperial City, Cyrodiil. Corda, in a robe of blinding whiteness, a uniform of the priestess of the Hagaketh Mothwa Conservatorium, arrived in the city just as the first winter storm was passing. The clouds broke with sunlight, and the beauteous teenaged Redguard girl... What? Beauteous? Is that a word? and teenaged. I mean, I guess teenager you could turn into an adjective, but isn't beautiful already an adjective? No, but beauteous would be like filled with beauty. Yeah, full of beauty. Like, I don't know, beautiful? You got a point there. Is that a word? Beauteous? Maybe we'll check it out later. I teenaged as well. Anyway, the teenage Redguard girl appeared in a wide avenue with escort. Riding towards the palace. While her sister was tall, thin, angular, and haughty, Corda was a small, round-faced lass with wide brown eyes. The locals were quick to draw comparisons. "Not a month after Lady Raja's execution," muttered a housemaid, peering out the window and winking to her neighbour. "And not a month out of the nunnery neither," the other woman agreed, revelling in the scandal. "This one's in for a ride. Her sister weren't no innocent, and look where she ended up." 24 Frostfall. So the 24th Frostfall. 29-20. Wait, wasn't the last one the 20? Oh, it was 21st. Sorry. Cassio stood on the harbour and watched the early sleet fall on the water. It was a pity, he thought, that he was prone to seasickness. There was nothing for him now in Tamriel, to the east or to the west. The vexed tale of his poor spycraft had spread to taverns everywhere. The Baron of Dwenin had released him from his contract. No doubt they were laughing about him in Daggerfall too, and Dawnstar, Linmoth, Remmen, Greenheart, probably an Acuvar and Yukuda, for that matter. Perhaps it would be best to drop into the waves and sink. The thought, however, did not stay long in his mind. It was not despair that haunted him, but rage, impotent fury that he could not you can do it. Assuage. Whatever. "Excuse me, sir," said a voice behind him, making him jump. "I'm sorry to disturb you, but I was wondering whether you could recommend an inexpensive tavern for me to spend the night." Okay, that was the wrong voice, because it was a Nord. Whatever. It was a young man, a Nord, with a sack over his shoulder. Obviously, he had just disembarked from one of the boats. For the first time in weeks, someone was looking at Cassio as something other than a colossal, famous idiot. He could not help. Black his mood was, but be friendly. "You just arrived in Skyrim?" "From Skyrim?" asked Cassio. "No, sir, that's where I'm going," said the fellow. "I'm working my way home. I've come up from Sentinel, and before that Stross Mackay, and before that Woodhearth and Valenwood, and before that Artorium in Somerset." "Oh my god, it's Welleg. Welleg's my name." "Welleg's alive?" "No, he didn't die. He just, super burned himself." Oh my god. This is so Game of Thrones. I mean, it's kind of stupid to compare this to Game of Thrones, but what I mean is, it's got that whole different threads of stories, and they cross over each other. Makes sense. But anyway, I love this story. It's great. Cassio introduced himself and shook Welleg's hand. "Did you say you came from Artorium? Are you a Psijic?" "No, sir. Not anymore." The fellow shrugged. "I was expelled." "Do you know anything about summoning Daedra? You see, I want to cast a curse against a particularly powerful person. One might say a living god. And I haven't had any luck. The Baron won't allow me in his sight, but the Baron asked his sympathy for me and allowed me to use their summoning chambers." Cassio spat. "I did all the rituals, made sacrifices, but nothing came of it." "That's because of Sothoth, my old master," replied Welleg with some bitterness. "The Daedra princes have agreed not to be summoned by any amateurs, at least until the war ends. Only the Psijics may counsel with the Daedra, and a few nomadic sorcerers and witches." "Witches, you say?" Dun dun dun. 29th Frostfall, 29-20. Fergus, High Rock. Pale sunlight flickered behind the mist, bathing the forest as Turada, Doathra, and Seraphina drove their horses on. The ground was wet with a thin layer of frost and laden down with goods. It was a slippery way over unpaved hills. Julana tried to contain her excitement about coming back to the coven. Wayrest had been an adventure, and she adored the looks of fear and respect the city folk gave her. But for the last few days, all she could think of was returning to her sisters and her child. A bitter wind whipped her hair forward, so she could see nothing but the path ahead. She did not hear the rider approach to her side until he was almost upon her. When she turned and saw Cassia, she shouted with as much surprise as pleasure at meeting an old friend. His face was pale and drawn, but she took it to be merely from travel. "What brings you back to Ferengus?" she smiled. "Were you not treated well in Drennan?" "Well enough," said Cassia. But enough about that. I have need of the Skeffington Coven." "Ride with us," said Julana. "I'll bring you to Mysteria." The four continued on, and the witches regaled Cassia with tales of Wayrest. It was evident that it was also a rare treat for Drathra and Seraphina to leave old Babin's farm. They had been born there as daughters and granddaughters of Skeffington witches. Ordinary High Rock city life was exotic to them, as it was that's not what it says. It says was exotic to them as it was to Delara. It should be as exotic, but whatever. It's arguing semantics, literal grammatical semantics, but Cassia said little, but smiled and nodded his head, which was encouragement enough. Thankfully, none of the stories they had heard were about his own stupidity. Well, that's lucky. Or at the very least, they did not tell him. Doyathra was in the midst of a tale she had heard in a tavern about a thief who had been locked overnight in a pawn shop when they crossed over a familiar hill. Suddenly, she halted her story. Uh-oh. The barn was supposed to be visible, but it was not. The other three followed her gaze into the fog, and a moment later they rode as fast as they could towards what was once the site of the Skeffington Coven. The fire had long since burned out. Nothing but ashes, skeletons, and broken weaponry remained. Cassia recognized at once the signs of an orc raid. Uh-oh. Things are not gonna go good. Tornado's gonna be upset. The witches fell from their horses, racing through the remains, wailing. Seraphina found a tattered, bloody piece of cloth that she recognized from Mysteria's cloak. She held it to her ashen face, sobbing. Tornado screamed for Bosrol, but the only reply was the high whistling wind through the ashes. "Who did this?" she cried, tears streaking down her face. "I swear I'll conjure up the very flames of oblivion! What have they done with my baby?" "I know who did it," said Cassia quietly, dropping from his horse and walking towards her. "I've seen these weapons before. I fear I met the very fiends responsible in Denon. But I never thought they'd find you." "Oh my God, are you seriously gonna lie to her?" "Oh, wow. This is the work of assassins hired by the Duke of Mournhold." He paused. The lie came easily. Adopt and improvise. What's more, he could tell instantly that she believed it. Her resentment over the cruelty of the Duke had shown her... Her resentment over the cruelty of the Duke had shown her, had quieted, but never disappeared. One look at her burning eyes told him that she would summon the Daedra and wreak his and her his and her revenge upon Morrowind. And what's more, he knew they'd listen. And listen they did, for the power that is greater than desire is rage, even rage misplaced. Ooh, so that was Frostfall, book 10 of 2920, the last year of the first era by Kadovac Townway. And now I will look that word up. There's two words. Where is it? Where is it? Hang on. Yeah, there it is. Alright, let me look this shit up. I mean, teenaged, yeah, sure, I get that's a word. But, B-E... God damn it. I mean, I'm sure it is a word. You'd think if you were writing something like this, you'd actually make sure that it's a word before you used it. Yeah, but it's a video game. And it was written a long time ago. Not that long ago. It's like 20 years ago, dude. I think that's a word. It's really a word, yeah. What's the pronunciation of it? It just means beautiful. It's literally just another word for beautiful. Huh. And, teenaged? I mean, I'm sure it's a word. Why wouldn't it be? Yep. Alright. Well, tune in for the penultimate book of Sun's Dusk. But for now, my name is Leo, and I'll see you next time.